Welcome to the Hot Chicks Write Hot Books podcast with Jen Foster and Melanie Johnson, where authors give you their inside secret tips on how to be a successful best-selling author. Hey, it's Melanie Johnson and Jen Foster with Elite Online Publishing here for another fabulous podcast with you. And we want to remind you to please leave comments for us, share our podcast. We'd appreciate that. If you're interested in writing a book, we would love to help you. We have book writing retreats and full publishing services. So we have a New York Times best-selling author here with us today, Angie Fenimore. She has started a whole community and courses on how to write and get your book published traditionally. So she's going to tell us all about that, and then we're going to get into her book and talk about how that came about and her publishing experience with that. Angie, welcome. Thanks for coming today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm a Fenimore, so I'm a writer. Where it just runs in the blood. And then, and I was published, and then I hid out, and, my book went crazy, I think 9 languages. I don't know. It's in Farsi, and so there came a point where I was doing human resources. That was my day job. And the company I worked for was going under, and I could see the writing on the wall, and so I laid myself off is what I did. And I was in the middle of a co-write at the time, and we really had a book that was timely, that needed to be out right then, and so laid myself off and wrote full-time. And then I was sitting around, no kidding, my island in my kitchen with my best friend, 9 a.m., having a glass of wine, and just brainstorming, like, what are my skills? What am I going to do next? And it really was important to me to be able to write. And as a single mom, and, the breadwinner, it just, like, finding writing time was really difficult. Mm-hmm. And so I used to lead programs for Landmark Worldwide, which is like the global leader in personal and professional development. Mm-hmm. And I was very, very effective there. So I know how to take an entire room of people and in 3 days create a transformational experience. And, I knew for myself from writing that I used transformational tools all the time, hearing a no, being able to hear a no. Mm-hmm. So, and then I was also just masterful at the pitch. I'd gone to a couple of writers' conferences where I didn't get picked up at the conference itself, but I had created connections outside of the conference. Like, I had called an agent, which is a no-no. You don't ever do that. And but I did, and I just, I knew how to pitch it, like how to get that one-liner out so that she, I told her, I know I'm breaking protocol, by the way. And then I got my one-liner out, which introduces an opening to get the pitch out, the 30 seconds out. And we met over vitamin water in LA at the completion of a conference, and I signed. And she's one of the top deal makers. And the same thing happened with my other agent that I have, who's the #1 deal maker across all genres. Often it was just out of doing the unconventional and knowing how to pitch, and that training that I got leading that course. It's all about training people in how to tell their story effectively in 30 seconds. That's a lot of what we did. Plus, as an HR manager in the restaurant industry, I probably hired and fired thousands of people. And I definitely interviewed so many people. I was very, very clear what works, what you got to get out in 10 seconds. And, the presentation, all of it. So I'm sitting around my island with my best friend. And so it's like, okay, that, and you write phenomenally, I always have, the big dogs, Random House, Simon & Schuster, Macmillan requesting my work. So there was that. And I know how to put on a spread. It's like we Fenimore is also all about the divine as far as food and presentation goes. And you get me and my sister together planning Easter, and it's, food all day. It's quiche in the morning and homemade pastries and all on, mixed, matched china. It's just, in crystal, just beautiful, right? And so I really, no kidding, put it together, what it was going to look like. I knew participants needed to have the opportunity to pitch. If I was going to continue to, persuade them towards the traditional route, which I still believe, that lends you so much credibility. I still believe, that that's a great way to go. And I do think that there are those who are writing books that really should consider self. So we actually do both now, but it was that plus just all of it. I put together, I knew it needed to be 3 days. I knew 4 days is too long for what I wanted to do, something that's a day course, 3 days. 2 is not enough. And I also knew I needed to bring in other experts. So I actually put it together. I got my panel filled out. I got myself on all the shows and in the media, in, newspapers. And I filled that course, that first course, this is like 3 years ago. And then I put together the actual curriculum at 11 p.m. the night before. And it's just, and at that course, the very first course, we were at 80% effectiveness for manuscript submission requests, the first course. And so it's just expanded from there. Then we eventually introduced story structure. I happen to be dyslexic, which is a gift. And I can see things globally. So I've kind of reverse engineered basically what I do that is effective. And then broken that down into chunks, like Mozart did what he did, but a piano teacher can actually teach you how to play Mozart. So that's what we do, is
perfect.
We write like a master.
So tell us, so you have this 3-day course, and most of our listeners usually are looking at self-publishing. And so it's great that we're interviewing you because we can learn all about the traditional publishing world and how it works. But some of the vocabulary you're using, some of us don't know what all that means. So start with, you have a 3-day course where you teach people the main things they need to know to pitch and write their manuscript and how to have a good story to begin with, right?
Well, we start with the brain science, like of the experience of rejection and failure, which is rampant in the traditional publishing world. It's also rampant in the self-pub world too. And you're always, writing is such a solitary, activity. You're always second guessing yourself. So we dismantle that so that you're able to separate out the work from you, so that when you do hear a no, it's like, oh, that was contribution to elevate the work, rather than, oh, I should not be writing, which is where we all go. And we also teach you how to hear feedback. And then we train you in story structure. And we do this in such a way that a 6-year-old can get it, and you never forget it. You see it everywhere and then you can reproduce that, right? You can then see your story in 4 parts. You can see, am I hitting those emotional beats? Because not only are we interested in getting people published, we want those books to be phenomenal. We want them to be like award-winning quality, right? And then on day 2, what we do is we brainstorm, we workshop all day long on the pitch. And then we bring in our panel at 4:00, and it's a soiree. This is a very small event. And so these are people that you have to wait behind the velvet rope for hours to get to talk to them at Comic-Con or other conferences. And here you get them, and you're having dinner with them. And then you get to pitch your project to the editors that are there. And then on, which is phenomenal, and everybody's just kind of blown away that they're sitting there with an editor and they're getting feedback or they're getting a yes. And then on day 3, we focus on the creative process, which
Let's go back to the pitch really quick before we go to the creative.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about the book pitch. So what exactly is it? What does it mean? What is it just, what is a book pitch?
Okay, good. So this is useful for anybody and everybody. Like I said, I did HR. This is great if you're applying for a job. This is great if you're an entrepreneur. This is fabulous if you're in the tech industry and you've got a project and you're looking for angel funding. This is fabulous if you've got an idea that you want to crowdfund. You have to have the pitch down. This is fabulous if you're a speaker. You really need to know how to pitch. So what we do is we take the story and condense it down. How do you tell the story from, a novel this big all the way down to 1 line? How do you tell the story in 3 sentences? If you happen to get somebody like Gary Goldstein, who is made Pretty Woman and Mothman Prophecies and others, like I did, got him completely on board. Jane Pauley, same thing. She said yes to doing a foreword for me because I had that down. Here it is, here's who I am, and here's what here's the project. And do it in such a way that you're telling a story. It really, it begins with hook, And then we've got to see the conflict, and then you're going to leave it on a cliffhanger. But we've got to get who the character is, and you've got to do that in a sentence, or you've got to do it in 30 seconds. And what happens is when you learn how to pitch, the book itself is no problem. We have no problem expanding that and using that, that model and stretching it out. And actually with my private clients, I also do private writing coaching. With my private clients, we storyboard it first, and we make sure that we've got those emotional beats, that the story is building, that we've done all the things that we need to do. And then we're going to expand the story. Then we'll write the chapters out. But anyway, so that's what a pitch is, we tend to think that it's like, like throwing a baseball, or a hook is like throwing that line out there, casting that line so you can reel them in. It's more like this. It's a promise. It's a promise for what's to come. And so when you are related to it inside of that context, it changes everything. You're interested in the things that they're interested in, rather than you like fire hosing War and Peace at them, right?
So I like what you said, that there is, you've got the hook, you've got the conflict, and then you've got the cliffhanger. So it's really those three things you need to make sure you have incorporated in that pitch. And like you said, no matter if it's for a business, if it's for funding, it's the same formula, right?
Yeah. And it's the characters and the setting.
And the characters in the setting.
5 things. It's hook, characters, setting, conflict, and cliffhanger.
Okay.
You can do that in a sentence. You can do that in 30 seconds. It doesn't feel like it, and it takes us hours to get there. But
yeah. That's great. And so then on day 3, you work on?
So on day 3, what we do is we incorporate the training that we've all gotten in brain science, and wrap that around the creative process, so that you're no longer waiting like for a downpour of inspiration and run out with your bucket at 2:00 in the morning because you're inspired to write. You can create that environment within you, within yourself, and around you, like that. And so, we incorporate all of the senses. Mm-hmm. Like my creative process looks like I've got a playlist that's got everything from Metallica to Motown. I'm telling you, like everything imaginable, but here's the criteria. If it's going into my playlist, it is something that evokes particular emotion for me. So Breaking Bad, for example, halfway through the season, and I'm telling you, this is halfway, the middle episode in the entire series. They crush an RV. You got to watch the whole thing to get this, but they crush an RV, and it's a heartbreaking moment for the viewer. And they play this song, Hey Venido. And that song, it's this old doo-wop. It's in Spanish, and it's like slot 1, 2, 3, and 4 on my playlist. I hear that 4 times before I even move into the rest of my playlist, because it's going to evoke the same emotional response that I had watching that. And so the criteria would be, it's got to work for you. It's got to work for you. I keep Jergens lotion handy because my mother used Jergens, and that will take me back to 4 years old. Prior to when I started building all this emotional armor, because that's what human beings do to survive life. That's what we do. We work up our whole armory so that we can survive and do it with a smile. And it'll take me before that moment, those conversations got put into place in my head. And so and I have this whole repertoire of stuff that I've got to have apples. I've got like 5 drinks that I've got to have next to me, all these things. So I don't have to get up. And then I flip my hourglass. And I actually use a real live hourglass. I was going to see if I could reach over and show it to you. It's right next to me.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's see it.
Yeah. So here it is.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's antique. Flip the glass, and the sand doesn't even move correctly anymore. It's so old. But what happens is, the rule for me is no checking email, no Facebook, no text, no nothing. Yeah. I can't get up and go to the bathroom. Nothing. While the hourglass is flowing, I have to write, whether it's garbage or good. Doesn't matter. And I've been using the hourglass for 10 years plus. And I've never had a time, not one time, where I've been watching the glass. Okay, when's it going to be time? It's more like, oh, it ran out. I don't know when. And I have no idea how much time has passed. And I've produced fabulous stuff because I'm surrounded by everything I need. There's no distractions. I create with my family. It's writing day. And they know, write it on the whiteboard if they want to say, I love you, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to interrupt that flow. So we discuss creative process and we create what's going to work for you because it isn't the same for everybody. Some people need complete silence. Some people can't hear words in the music they're listening to, right?
So tell us, what are the secrets that you have that you can encourage our writers listening, the process of getting that agent, how to get an agent, because a lot of writers just can't even get the agent, let alone to get to the traditional publisher. And then from there, how to get, the things that they should do to try and snag a traditional publisher.
Okay, so the first thing is you want to pitch at a conference because that is your foot in the door. If you're just querying, that's the cold call. You're going to a slush pile, and unless that agent has requested pages from you, it's interns reading it. So you may not even get an opportunity to connect with that agent. It may be a project that they're interested in, right? So definitely it's about pitching at a conference and learn.
What conferences do you recommend? What conferences do you recommend?
For sure. We're operating at better than 98% for manuscript submission requests.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Did you hear it, Jen? Because I couldn't hear it.
No, say it again.
We're operating at 98%.
No, the name of the conference.
The name of the conference? The first course that we do, our entry-level course, is the Salt Lake City Compel, Polish, Pitch, and Sign Writers Conference. I recommend you do ours because we operate at 98% and better for manuscript request. We have a second course that we do called The Crucible, which is for graduates only because you've laid a foundation. It's 2 days. Day one, we focus on the pitch, and day two, we Skype in top deal making agents that operate with integrity. We have vetted them, and they're looking for manuscripts, like they're requesting manuscripts from the genres that our writers are writing. So we've already done that eHarmony matchmaking. And we're at, I hate to say it because I know someday it won't be this, but we're at 100%, having led that course for hundreds of people. And at other conferences, it's 5 to 8% success rate for that. They don't train you how to pitch. It's here you go, good luck with that. There's your 3 minutes with right? And, and I had some nightmares happen at other conferences that was part of what inspired me to do this is we've got to train people, set them up for success. And so we, of course, recommend ours. That was our big thing, is focusing on the pitch. But then we also cover branding, and building a platform. And we bring in special guests. Like our next course, we have a Speaker Hall of Famer, Dan Clark, coming to the course to talk about speaking. You have to know how to present yourself.
That's a great point. Does an author have to have a platform before a traditional publisher will take them? So they may have a great book, but do they want to know, how many followers do you have? How many, how many books are you going to sell? Because people know who you are. Is that a big, important thing?
It's huge. It's as important as the book. That not only that you have reach, but that you have branded yourself. So, it'd be weird for Lady Gaga to show up to the Tonight Show without cheek implants, fake cheek implants. It's you want to build that brand consistent with who you are, Devin Supertramp, he has a brand, no doubt a brand that matches his following. But so everything you build needs to funnel. It needs to be consistent with who you are, and you need to be consistent with your brand, and you must have reach and visibility. I have seen agents say no to manuscripts because they're like, come back in a year when you've built that platform.
Yeah.
And I've seen manuscripts that I didn't think were going to get picked up that landed huge deals, huge film deals, huge publishing deals, signed with top agents because they built that platform.
Yeah.
It's absolutely critical.
Great. I have a question about, so when we do self-publishing, of course, and we help people get their books on Amazon. So there's a myth out there that says, if you have your book already out, then no agent or no one will pick you up. No traditional publisher is going to look at you. Tell us how that looks like, and is that a myth, or how does that, what's that all look like?
Yeah, okay, so there's some truth, and here's what it is. It's about the ISBN, okay? once you have a book out, you have an ISBN attached, and it never goes away. It's like getting a credit card, running it up, and never paying on it if you don't have book sales. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to self-publish, here's what I have to say about self-publishing, is you want to make sure that you have everything else aligned too. It doesn't work to just say, okay, I'm going to go on CreateSpace and throw this thing out here. No, you want to have an editor. You want to have eyes on it. You want to make sure that you get a writing coach that knows what they're doing. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that this thing is going to pass muster and stand the test of time, because it will forever be out there. You know, it'll be, and then if you sell any copies at all, then they're available in the aftermarket. You can't even reel them back in, right? Mm-hmm. You've got to make sure that you've got a book cover designer that knows what they're doing. You've got to make sure that you know how to play the game and how to reach bestseller statuses in different categories. So that's the only reason we still, and we don't actually entirely recommend completely traditional publishing anymore. You know, I've been watching it, and, you know, we're at a point where it's still, you know, it depends on what you're doing. But if you are willing to invest in all of the other things that it takes to have a book be successful, then by all means, especially if you're a speaker, you know, and you already have credibility, and that's another thing too, it's about the credibility and the visibility as well, then by all means self-publish, but do it right. You know, do it right. You are not the best judge of whether or not that book is great. Yeah. You've got to get eyes on it. Professionals that know, that have been doing this for a long time, that have their hands wrapped around, you know, what a great book looks like and what has a book sell.
So does a book have a chance, let's say it reaches #1 on Amazon, is it possible that a traditional publisher will pick it up?
That will serve you. That will actually serve you. Richard Paul Evans, who was he's the all-time top-selling self-pub author, and, you know, began selling those books out of the trunk of his car, ended up landing a $4.2 million deal with a traditional publisher. Yeah. And I don't know if it was the second book. I think it was the second book, actually.
For Michael Bay, or for which book?
No.
For his Christmas Box series?
Yeah.
Christmas Box, okay.
Yeah, for the Christmas Box series. So it's a foot in the door too to traditional publishing. And, you know, another nice thing about traditional publishing is they're going to write you a check rather than you write them a check. But, you know, sometimes it's, especially the world the way it is and the conversations that are changing, sometimes, you know, they're old dogs. Traditional publishers are old dogs, and sometimes they're not really up on what, you know, what the audience wants to hear, what they're ready for as well.
Well, and I just had a conversation with a PR agent that works with traditional publishers. Pretty much that's all she does is traditional publishers. And she was saying, you know, a publisher, a book, maybe they get, let's say it's not a big author, so they get a $15,000 check. She said, well, then they got to turn around and give me that money because they're not going to do the PR for that book. Mm-hmm. So I've got to do the PR, make sure that's sent out and they have all the books ready to go. And again, it's having that hook that's going to get the people interested to give the media attention.
Right. So and that's one of the things that, you know, traditional publishing is going to provide. They're going to give you a publicist. They're, you know, but it's like, you know, there's such a short shelf life on that. They're around 6 weeks later with their new list of authors. Mm-hmm. So you have to learn this quickly, even if you're going to publishing. You've got to be on board. And then they're looking for that. They're now looking for people, for authors who are going to partner with them, not just a fabulous book and a writer who's going to hide out.
Right.
Yeah, that's long gone are those days.
Yeah, they want to know what you're going to bring to the table for sure. Absolutely. You know, what's your marketing plan? Even the bookstores for book distributed, you know, if you want your book, if you're self-publishing and you want your book in a bookstore, well, then you've got to say what you're doing for your marketing plan with the book. And even if it's traditional publishing, you still have to say, this is my marketing plan for the book. Right. So it's all real important.
Right. You know, even Stephen King still writes proposals for books.
Yeah.
It's like you never get around that. Especially in today's social economy, like, you know, and I mean like the social aspect of delivering content and, you know, like you just, it changes so fast. It changes so fast. You've got to jump into the current and stay.
Yeah.
If you intend to.
So Angie, tell us where people can go to this fabulous course that you have and get, be one of your 90% success rates.
Awesome. It's CalliopeWritingCoach.com, and Calliope is the daughter of Zeus. She's the muse of epic poetry. So it's CALLIOPE, CalliopeWritingCoach.com.
Terrific.
Awesome. Well, we'll put that link up at the bottom, and everyone can find Angie Fenimore on Amazon. You can find her books and all the things that she's contributed to, as well as her coaching. And they can hire you one-on-one as well, right? Besides your
absolutely, yeah. Mm-hmm. And if we work together one-on-one, you get to go to all the courses, and it's just, we're going to make sure that everything is spot on, and I'm going to train you. Like, my intention is that you can actually teach what I teach by the time we're done. Even with the second course in pitching, our participants have great success at other conferences as well. We had one that she went to one of the big conferences in San Francisco after doing our course, and she pitched to 10 agents and she got 10 requests. Wow. So this is skill then that you can take with you into other arenas.
Terrific. Thank you so much. So you can find Angie. Thanks for all that great information. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast today. Remember to share it and like it and pass it on. And if you want to be a writer, there's always great content you can find here. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Today's episode is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, the brand building publisher. They help you write, sell, and market your book online. Check them out at eliteonlinepublishing.com. Also by Book Writing Retreats. Spend 6 days at the beach and have your book written by the time you get home. Check out bookwritingretreats.com and find your beach to write your book.